Once you're in the game, you're kind of scrambling and you're on that hamster wheel, and it just feels like you're never going to get off. And unfortunately for us, we just didn't have a company like Indinero that was prepared to help us, because we needed some leadership, because we were in new ground. That was evident that we were really vulnerable to being led astray if we didn't have the proper guidance, because we hadn't done it before, and things just got really messy really quickly. And then once you're not set up correctly, it's just hard to get back. So there was about at least a dozen qualified companies that met my original criteria, which circled around, the main part of it was accrual bookkeeping. The other part was food service experience. So those were the two major things that I had been frustrated with. And I had found that in the bookkeeping industry, there's a lot of people that say they have experience with those things. And in my experience, they were lying, because the minute that we got going, and I've been through 10 bookkeeping companies in our history. So I got experience in this. I've dealt with a lot of bookkeepers, all different sizes and stuff like that. And everyone seems to have a different version of what accrual bookkeeping is. And it's one thing to know what it is. It's one thing to understand it, which I think most people get into bookkeeping, like, they have an understanding of it. It's they can recite the definition, but can they make it a working operation? Can they help facilitate people like us who can't do that and need that leadership? So when I started working on Brittany Indinero, it was obvious to me that the experience was there. And while she was committing to things, she wasn't prepared to overcommit. And it was a very transparent thing where it's like, yeah, I know that's going to be a pain in the butt. So yeah, we can do it, but I need this from you. And so it was instantly that give and take relationship. Whereas before it was just like, we were on separate teams. The bookkeeper did their thing. They came, it's like two ships in the night. And I knew that was part of the problem, because no, they need our help. If having a good working relationship with somebody beyond the numbers, right? Like, it's obvious what we pay you guys to do. It's not about personality, right? We're paying you to give us a result, to give us numbers that we can use, and to offer support and guidance. But one of the biggest issues I've had is the working relationship and just the chemistry. That is, if that's important to you, then that is hard to find. And Indinero has been able to do that. I'm a pretty intense person. I think a lot of business owners are. There's like a lot of emotions in it. So the level of respect and like just courtesy is actually really maybe more important than a lot of bookkeepers realize, because you have access to things that not many people do, right? There's more people in this world that can see my business bank account. You know what I'm saying? So that's a vulnerable spot. Obviously, like, if we didn't have to do that, we wouldn't do that. We wouldn't share that information. And so because of that, the nature of that relationship, like, it can get a little distorted. You guys have a real responsibility to handle that very delicately. I honestly getting a little emotional just talking about it. I just appreciate the fact that Brittany and Indinero came into a messy situation, but they didn't necessarily look at us like we were a mess. I appreciated the fact of her tact, and even though you might not think that's important because we're just talking about numbers and stuff like that, to me, that was really important. And I think it probably is to a lot of business owners, because you go through a lot, and it helps to have support around you and be surrounded by people that are uplifting you and empowering you and not mocking or belittling your abilities. So you got to make a really tough decision to just start over, or you keep just kind of dealing with it. And so we dealt with it for a little while, but I knew in my mind, not only did we need to make a big change, but it was the most important decision as a business that we were going to make. And we had to take it very, very seriously, and we had to get it right. The cost that we saved, or what it was costing us before, doesn't even really matter, especially as you start to expand. I think you can get away with this more when you're like one unit. We did for years, like we didn't really keep accrual books as a one unit. You can get away with cash in, cash out, because you kind of know, you start doing something for a while and you know what your busy times are. So you know when the money's going to be there, when it's not going to be there, and you can run it more of a from the hip, common sense type operation. Once we advanced beyond that, I just don't think we could have even existed the way we were. I'm just grateful that we made it as far as we did, because we wouldn't have had much more time, because that clock starts running, I think, on you. The minute that we had solved our books to the point where I'm like, wow, like, hey, the month just ended 2 weeks ago. I'm going to send this P&L to like my business partner, The minute that we did that, we went like ballistic with changes, because we recognized like there was a couple months where we had like lost a ton of money, and it changed. Like we changed our salesperson who had been with us for many years, but you could see it the whole time. You could see where it was headed. It was very exciting. Now it's just, we're in like a really good place, and I just don't know that anyone else could have got us there. I really don't. And with my experience, just any of the companies that we dealt with, there's just no way. And already just a couple months later, like things are really heading into like a really good direction. We just renewed a 4-year contract with the nursing home, and a hefty pay raise they're giving us. So that was a big part of our issues, is getting that renegotiated. They allowed us to renegotiate it correctly without asking for too much or too little, because both of those are a problem, right? If you're in a bad contract, it doesn't matter if it's not good or good. Eventually that contract might end, so we always kind of keep that in mind. So it's very important to me that we had these numbers, so I could come to them with, look, this is how much this operation, and it's a complex operation. We have a team of 25 people on site, 3 meals a day, 7 days a week, 150 residents that we're feeding, plus all of their snacks. There's a lot of maintenance and labor, and a lot of all these reimbursements that are happening. So it's very difficult to come in and say, oh, this is how much this costs. We can do that now. And so I think that's really valuable, because we don't want to be there for 4 years. We want to be there for 30, and so that's where we feel like we're at, because of the quality of service they've always been happy with. And now we've settled into a price that hopefully they're happy with and we're happy with. And so we can all just like go to work. And so, the business is definitely thriving.